I never thought a neighborhood meeting could end with my wife being saluted by a police officer while the HOA president nearly fainted. All it took was one ID card, one sharp refusal, and suddenly, the so-called Queen of Sunset Hills was exposed as a fraud. But before I tell you how we got there, let me back up, because this nightmare started with something that looked so ordinary it almost fooled me too. Act 1. The spark of conflict. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing special. At least it wasn't supposed to be. My wife Rebecca and I had been living in Sunset Hills for 3 months, long enough to think we'd found peace after her retirement from the Army. We were new, still trying to blend in, nodding politely at neighbors, keeping the lawn neat. I figured this HOA meeting would be the usual talk about pool chemicals or somebody's grass being too tall. Instead, we walked straight into an ambush. The community center was packed, 60 people crammed into a room built for 30. Everyone looked tense, whispering, avoiding eye contact with the board, and there, dead center at the front table, sat Karen Whitfield. Perfect manicure, smug smile, blazer pressed, like she was running for governor. She tapped her nails on the table like a metronome of power. She called the meeting to order. No greetings, no pleasantries, just that clipped, bossy tone. Then she stood, smoothed her jacket, and dropped the bomb. Each household, she declared, will contribute $250,000 toward our premium landscaping project. Payments due within 30 days, non-negotiable. I swear my jaw hit the floor. 250 grand for landscaping. That's more than my entire salary for a year of teaching history. The room erupted gasps, mutters, people shaking their heads. An old widow, Mrs. Martinez, stood up, voice trembling. She reminded Karen she'd already paid $45,000 last year for emergency roof repairs that never happened. She confessed she'd been living on soup and crackers just to keep up. Karen rolled her eyes, rolled them. And with the cruelty of someone who enjoys watching people suffer, she said, maybe assisted living would be more appropriate for your situation. I felt Rebecca tense beside me, like a spring about to snap. And sure enough, she stood, calm, controlled. No theatrics, just, I refuse to pay this fee, period. 12 words. That's it! But you could feel the air shift. Karen went purple. Excuse me? Did you just refuse a direct order from this board? She jabbed a manicured finger at my wife. This is civilian territory. Military wives need to learn their husband's rank doesn't mean special privileges here. You will comply or face consequences. I wanted to laugh. Because the irony was delicious, she had no idea who she was talking to. But before I could say anything, Karen snatched up her phone and, right there in front of everyone, dialed 911. Police, we have aggressive government employees threatening the HOA board. They are hostile, intimidating residents. The absurdity was off the charts. Rebecca had said exactly 12 calm words, but Karen wasn't done. She strutted around the room like she was on stage, throwing around phrases like military intimidation and public safety. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be just another HOA dispute. Act 2. Escalation and Turning Point. 20 minutes later, Detective Jake Morrison walked in. The second I saw him straight back, scanning the room with sharp eyes, I knew he was prior military. Karen rushed him like a puppy, practically squealing about how dangerous we were. Morrison listened, nodded, then asked for IDs from all parties. Rebecca reached into her purse and handed him hers. And that's when everything flipped. Morrison's entire demeanor changed. He snapped to attention, shoulders squared, and saluted. Yes, ma'am. General, how can I assist you today? The room went silent. Karen's mouth fell open so wide I thought her jaw might break. But instead of backing down, Karen doubled down. This is discrimination. Military people cannot intimidate civilians. I want your supervisor. No, I want the chief of police. Rebecca stayed calm. She opened a folder she'd been carrying and laid out documentation patterns of harassment, fake assessments, funds that had mysteriously disappeared. She'd been tracking Karen from week 2, she later admitted, because something about the woman's tactics screamed military psychological ops. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd turned the tide. Then Karen played a card I wasn't expecting. She leaned on her brother's name. My brother is Congressman Robert Whitfield. He'll hear about this abuse of power. And just like that, I realized this fight wasn't local. This woman had political backup. The next blow came fast. My phone rang late that night, my principal. Apparently, Karen had filed complaints accusing me of indoctrinating students with anti-authority rhetoric. I was ordered to report to the district office the next morning. That hit me harder than I want to admit. I'm just a teacher. I'd built my career on encouraging kids to think critically, to question history, to stand up for what's right. And suddenly, I was being painted as a radical. My job on the line. I remember lying awake that night, staring at the ceiling, asking myself if I'd screwed up moving here. Maybe we should just cut our losses, sell the house, walk away before Karen destroyed everything we'd worked for. That was my lowest point, when I actually wondered if she was right, if we didn't belong here. But then Rebecca showed me something that lit a fire in me I didn't know I had. She opened a folder. No. A dossier. Photos, forged notices, a timeline of harassment against military families. 6 households had been forced to sell below market value, every single one to the same real estate company owned by Karen's ex-husband. This isn't just bullying, Rebecca said. It's organized fraud. And suddenly, I wasn't thinking about giving up anymore. I was thinking about fighting back. Act 3. Climax and Justice. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting, claiming she'd dissolve the board for the good of the community. Translation: destroy evidence before investigators caught up. The room was overflowing, hundreds of residents, news vans outside. Tyler, the kid down the street, live streaming to thousands. Karen strutted in with a crisis management team, thinking she could bluff her way through, but Rebecca wasn't bluffing. She stepped up with the calm authority of someone who used to brief the Pentagon. Slide after slide appeared on the projector: missing funds, fraudulent contractors, proof of families forced out. She spoke with precision, like she was addressing troops before a mission. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, this isn't about landscaping. It's about a systematic campaign of fraud and intimidation. And it ends tonight. The crowd gasped. Mrs. Martinez rose, her voice shaking but strong. This woman stole not just my money, but my safety in my own home. I won't be silent anymore. The room erupted. Shouts, demands for answers. Karen tried to gavel it down, her lawyers waving rule books, but nobody was listening. And then, the doors opened. Federal agents in dark suits filed in. They carried briefcases, badges, the whole 9 yards. Karen Whitfield, the lead agent, announced, "We need to speak with you." Karen's mask cracked. She ranted. She screamed about conspiracies, about being persecuted. And then, in front of cameras, neighbors, live streams, she snapped. "You have no idea what you've done," she shrieked. "The people I work with don't forgive. They don't forget. You think you've won, but you've just made enemies you can't imagine." The silence that followed was heavier than anything I've ever felt. For the first time, Karen looked small, her power evaporating under the weight of her own words. Agents stepped forward, cuffed her, and read the charges. Fraud, elder abuse, money laundering. The Queen of Sunset Hills was finished, and I stood there, not cheering, not celebrating, just breathing. Finally, closing line. The lesson. Sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought overseas or in courtrooms. They're fought in your own neighborhood, against bullies who think rules don't apply to them.